Are Goblin Archers any good in patch 6.0.3? Since I've been asked to do Wolf Riders, I am doing Archers now as a necessary point of comparison. Also, I expect people to go, but Skarsnik! No, we need to go over Goblin Archers for everyone else too. They are your cheapest, dirtiest, most expendable ranged option for the Greenskins, and therefore knowing how to use them as such does matter. Let's go over how these archers really get to the point. Recruit for 375 gold and 94 upkeep. A bit of an odd pair. On Ultra Unit scale, this gets you 120 entities at 6,120 health between them. You might be interested to know armor is 25, since that's a good deal better than some runts in the game would have. Leadership of 40 is quite low. Speed 33 and charge speed 40 are mediocre, but regular Arab boys suffer from slower speed. Melee attack begins at 10, and therefore they are emphatically not decent melee combatants. This is Slanesh level indecency. Attack interval of 4.3 does nothing to improve the situation. No splash damage. Melee defense 15 is slightly better, but nothing to write home to Mommy Goblin about. Weapon strength 24 is split between base 21 and armor-piercing 3, so it isn't all that bad until you're fighting seriously armored foes, then it is really bad. Charge bonus is 5 and mass is 19. Now, let's cover the unit's redeeming feature, ranged combat. Ammunition of 24 volleys is a bit impressive. Range of 115 is emphatically not. See, this is why I have to point out that Arab boys are 140 by default. Nominal missile damage 14 is actually 10 base and 1, a miserable measly 1, armor piercing per actual arrow hit. However, reload time is a speedy 8. Total accuracy is 20, that's fine. Calibration distance of 85 means they're extra inaccurate if between that and 115 meters. Calibration area of 3.5 is about what we'd expect from archers. There is no multi-target arrow penetration, ever. So while their range is more limited than Arab boys, their accuracy is more consistent within that range for the most part. Goblin Archers can hide in forest and have the expendable trait. Orcs and trolls don't care if they get stomped, but other goblins will. So before moving on, just keep in mind, while this is the light end of the scale of damage, on par with Tomb King's Skeleton Archers, that's 120 entities pumping out 10 base and 1 armor piercing per arrow for every 8 seconds. The unit is flimsy, low morale, easily damaged, and routed, but until those things happen, it's tossing out quite a bit of base damage DPS. In the redline skills, the Gobbos governs these guys, and much like the boys, there are so many greenskin units that this skill must do double duty for all infantry, melee, and missile alike. Consequently, 3 Pips offers not only plus 6 melee attack and plus 6 melee defense, which is already quite a lot of buffing, but offers plus 20% ammunition and plus 8% missile strength for Goblin Archers. That's applied to the total damage per arrow while keeping the damage ratio, so that alone instantly buffs us to 11 base and 1 AP damage. Rank 7 Gobbos qualify for aid from Sneaky Stabbers, which adds plus 5 leadership, plus 12% melee weapon strength, and 10% physical resistance. Of these, the leadership and the physical resistance matter most to the archers. You'd be amazed with all the demon proliferation how much stuff in this game still doesn't have magical attack, so it does help. But this is a flimsy unit. In the tech tree, the relevant stuff is Tough Fodder, granting plus 10 armor and plus 3 melee defense, more Grub, offering plus 5 leadership and minus 5% upkeep, and Beta Arrowheads, which offers plus 5% range and a nifty plus 10% more missile strength to all missile infantry units including this one. For scrap upgrades, Sharper Stabas, Ammo's Skin Sacks is not the same as what the Arab boys got. This, for 20 scrap, offers a whopping gargantuan plus 45% ammunition for the unit. 20 scrap for heavy ammo grants plus 3 armor-piercing missile damage. Now, what does this last part mean? It means that before percentile boosts are applied to missile strength from sources, you go from base 10 and 1 armor-piercing damage to base 10 and 4 armor-piercing damage. Per arrow, per Goblin Archer, per 8 seconds minus whatever veterancy provides for reload time reduction. You can bet that even dragons are going to feel that. You might massage that up to 5 armor piercing with max boosts, but even without that, going from 1 to 4 is a plus 300% boost in armor piercing damage for 4 times the original total, and if that was 120 armor piercing every 8 seconds, now it's 480 armor piercing every 8 seconds. Most things are going to feel at least some of the base damage, but it's random. This is adding greatly to the non-random damage, provided the arrows hit. So how do we use Goblin Archers? Well, Expendable has its benefits, namely you might end up having to waste a unit or two to initiate a battle on occasion, and they'll break and be wrecked really easily. If you can avoid doing this, great. Most of the time you'll settle for having them behind what passes for a front line, and just try and pepper the enemy with arrows sufficiently, or in archer duels they end up at a disadvantage in for a reason of short range. Having said that, yeah, if you can do anything at all to keep them topped off with 120 Gobbos a unit, that's a lot of DPS going out, even if not enough of it is armor piercing, at least without the scrap upgrades. It's also important to note, and I mean really important, this is the version everyone can get without the help from Skarsnik or Grom the Paunch. Basically, for being such a cheap unit, the actual offensive output from the arrows is really high. And let's go over the math again. Instead of the armor piercing, that's 1200 base damage going out from their bowstrings every 8 seconds without any scrap or tech tree upgrades or even redline skill help. 60 seconds of that, and you have 9000 base damage that's gone out. Some arrows miss, some are blocked by even bronze quality infantry shields, damage gets absorbed by armor, but without boosts, those same arrows will do an extra 900 damage from the armor piercing, minus the aforementioned issues to drag it down. That means in 1 minute, a Goblin Archer unit with just under a third of its ammo can utterly annihilate an Empire Swordsman unit. In theory. Of course, you need something to slow the enemy down that long, like a hero to Tarpid, but provided you have such things, this is some really good low-end DPS. Yes, they suck against armor like this, but again, this is before even the redline boosts, and before text and scrap. It gets a little better. And then you just bring, 5 or 6 more of the units, and then you're really cooking. Of course, once you do that, you're vulnerable to a single good unit of enemy cavalry getting in there and crushing you. As a war boss, you must be exploitative with your labor, not overly reliant upon it. You take risks that you can afford, and don't take risks you can't afford if things turn against you. So take as many Goblin Archers as you can easily get away with, and not more unless you're Skarsnik or you have something very special in mind. They'll pound ordinary levels of opposition with competence you'll be shocked to find in the Greenskin roster. Sheer number of archers starts to add up in various senses. And if you're fighting dwarfs that aren't slayers, try to have other options, okay? And if you are fighting slayers, it's most humiliating for them to find Goblin Archers to be something of their mortal foe. I suggest taking full advantage. Slayers are painful to fight fair, so fight unfair. A lot. Take care and have fun sending 10 arrows into melee for every gobble who can fit on a busy front line. And if a few hit the gobbles in the back, who really minds? Aside from the gobbles, of course.